What's good, y'all? Elite live streams. We back with another one. How you guys doing out there? Welcome to another Elite live streams. We got a good story today. We're gonna kick it. It's Christmas week. Salute to everybody out there. Happy holidays if you celebrate. To anybody, hope you are having a great time with your family and all your friends out there. Thank you to everybody who shows up and supports. You feel me? Well, the channel's doing well. A lot of new subscribers, so thank you to all of the new subscribers who've came over. Appreciate you guys, and anyone who comes through today. Make sure you like and subscribe as you come through. Show your boy some love. Make sure we continue to make it because we got a goal. We're trying to reach 1,000 subscribers. So make sure you guys continue to stay locked in with your boy and support what we're doing over here. Trying to have some fun and bring some good stories to the table. Some stuff that I came across, you know what I'm saying? So we're going to get into this story of Vallarta Foods, which is, it's like a grocery store chain over here in California, mostly in Southern California and Northern California, has been subpoenaed by the EEOC for discrimination probe. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to get into that. I had a friend send me this story. I came across it. And it was very interesting to me. It made a lot of sense, because on my channel, I do talk about a lot of times there's a lot of discrimination that goes on in the workplace, specifically in corporate America. And a lot of times it's not just the white establishment who partakes in these, office politics, but a lot of times it can be those who we thought, you know what I'm saying, were allies to Black Americans. It could be, anybody who's an immigrant from, maybe an Asian person or a Hispanic, Latino person, even like we've said, Africans and sometimes Caribbeans on the workplace, where a lot of times Black Americans are kind of, we're on our own in most of these workplaces if we're not careful. So this was a very interesting story that came across my, timeline, because you do see it a lot where it's maybe a Hispanic or Latino themed grocery store, and everybody who works there is Hispanic or Latino. I have no problems with that at all, but it just kind of proves my point to where I always say that Black Americans, we need to start working on creating our own grocery stores and our own places that we can patronize so that we don't have problems like this where there are, people who are Black trying to apply to, maybe a grocery store in their neighborhood because it might be local, you know what I mean? Might be convenient for them to work somewhere that's close to where they live, because in most times these are in proximity to, you know what I'm saying, where we all live in the same, neighborhoods. So it's very interesting that this came across as far as like, something that was going on. Honestly, I'm not very surprised, but, there is a big competition element that happens here where some people, need a job and maybe they do have experience working at grocery stores and they want to work at Vallarta, and they're saying that some of them weren't getting the proper, application processes. They weren't being promoted, a lot of times being overlooked. So we're going to get into that. We're going to talk about this. We're going to, kind of look at the overall. First, we're going to look at the actual story. This one was from Fox News 26. All right. So we're going to look into their official story on this, and then we'll have some commentary from a guy on TikTok. We're just, doing a little deep dive. So let's get into it.
Is now ordering Vallarta Food Enterprise to comply with the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. The grocer must now provide its employment and hiring practice information. So the subpoena actually shows that Vallarta supermarkets failed and or refused to recruit, hire, or promote people based on their race. The U.S. District Court for the Central District of California ordered Vallarta supermarkets to produce all requested applicant and employee data. The court will determine if Vallarta supermarkets is engaging in unlawful hiring practices by excluding non-Hispanic people from employment. Vallarta Supermarkets is a prominent supermarket chain with about 80 locations in Central and Southern California.
Right. So as you heard there, non-Hispanic people, right? So I'm not sure exactly, the deep dive, right? But this is the initial report that came out. The federal court orders Vallarta to comply with the EEOC for the subpoenas that they put on them for discrimination, right? And as you just heard, we'll run that back, but let's hear that again, okay? Just so you guys can get a real sick
people from employment. Vallarta Supermarkets is a prominent supermarket chairman. If Vallarta Supermarkets is engaging in unlawful hiring practices by excluding non-Hispanic people from employment.
excluding non-Hispanic people from employment, okay?
About 80 locations in Central and Southern California.
80 locations.
Leads us to our accountability question of the day. We reached out to the Public Relations Department of Vallarta Food Enterprises for comment, asking, how does Vallarta respond to the court order? So far, we have not heard back.
So there's the initial report, right? There's that initial report that basically, like you're saying, there was a difference, right, in kind of where they're saying that, okay, we are not hiring people who are non-Hispanic, right? So that it was the initial report here, okay? So let's get into, hold on, let me close that because that window is tripping. All right, so now let's get into a brother who's out here in California. He has his perspective on what's going on, and
hey everyone, a federal court has just ordered Vallarta Supermarkets, a popular chain with about 80 stores across Central and Southern California, to fully comply with requests from the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. The EEOC is investigating claims that the company has patterns of not hiring or promoting non-Hispanic workers because of their race or national origin. Now, this probe started with charges brought by EEOC Commissioner themselves back in 2024. When Vallarta did not provide all the information voluntarily, the agency went to court in July, and now the judge has ruled in their favor. The company must provide and turn over applicants' data, employee records, and even some hiring questions and any complaints about race or origin. The EEOC chair, Andrea Lucas, said the documents will help determine if laws were broken. So remember, this is still an investigation. No final decision on wrongdoing has been made, but I do want to know, what do y'all think about this? Share your thoughts in the comments, and until next time, be safe. I'm out.
All right. So you got the initial report, right, where they're talking about a discrimination report. They're not sure exactly what the details are, right? So I got the full report here. I want to bring that one up too, because I think that would be the perfect icing on the cake to bring it all together, because I think it's very important, like we always do on Elite Media, we're going to bring the receipts. So I got to make sure everything is accurate and to my liking, of course, you know what I'm saying? Because that's what we do here. So let me grab this part and then we're going to move it into what we need to move it into, right? Because I've been trying to, make it clear that I think it's important to always talk about kind of the inner dynamics of not only just Black Americans investing in ourselves, but as well trying to create institutions for us to patronize, right? And I think, the grocery stores and having Black American grocery stores that we can go to and patronize would only help our communities. And I'm big on thinking in that perspective, because if we are thinking the big picture, things like this and situations like this wouldn't be happening, right? If we had our own spaces that we could patronize, if we had our own spaces that we're going to be able to, have control over, right? And it's like, okay, well, if somebody is, not in a scenario where they can, okay, I can just go to this place and invest my money, it's going to be different than, hey guys, like now, you know what I'm saying? Now we can actually go to a store, a complete institution that is 100% for us, by us, and we're going to be able to take that with us. You feel me? So here we go. I got the report right here. I'm just going to read it off for you guys, right? Federal court orders Vallarta Supermarkets to comply with the EEOC and subpoenas and hiring discrimination probe. In July 2025, the Equal Opportunity Employment Commission filed a court action versus the Vallarta Food Enterprises after they didn't comply and failed to comply with information requests during an investigation, right? Vallarta Foods and several related companies, including Gonzalez Food Enterprises, Daniel Food Enterprises, John Lowe's Food Enterprises. Look at all these enterprises and businesses, right, that are integral. And of course, they're all probably sounding very Latino, right? So you got Santa Isabel, all these companies, right? Their headquarters in Santa Clarita, right, which makes sense, right? And they have over 80 stores throughout Central and Southern California, right? So this action, which is the Los Angeles District Office, which oversees the federal employment law enforcement in parts of California, Nevada, and several U.S. territories in the Pacific, right? So the U.S. District Court and Central District Court of California ordered the supermarkets to produce all request and applicant and employee data so the agency can determine whether the company has engaged in unlawful hiring practices by excluding non-Hispanic individuals from employment. In its ruling, the court emphasized the limited scope of judicial review in the subpoena enforcement proceedings, that nothing such reviewed is quite narrow, right? So you got a situation where they are, alleging that at this point, they are very much so smashing the gas on the fact that there was not anybody or anyone who was, hired or went through this hiring process who was non-Hispanic, right? So I think right now we got to kind of think outside the box when I see stories like this. They come along and I think about it and I'm like, okay, yeah, like I could definitely see, some scenarios where that would definitely make people upset if you are, somebody who's, Black American or, I don't know, they say non-Hispanic. So that could mean a lot of different people, right? But I think a lot of people, at least what I'm seeing, is like there's definitely people who have gone through these experiences where they wanted to work or patronize certain businesses and they were dominated by a particular race that here is speaking towards the Hispanics, right? And then they are the odd man out in the warehouse or in the supermarket, right? And so of course there's going to be a paywall or there's going to be obstacles that they're going to have to go through. And it's unfortunate, man, because right now, like ICE has been really, really prominent in going after a lot of the BS that's going on where people are, undocumented and whatever else. And a lot of the times I think that as well, this doesn't just benefit Black Americans, but I think a lot of white Americans have a problem as well with what's going on with the immigration here in the US. And so naturally, now we're starting to see where, the EEOC is not only just looking at people who are working illegally, but they're also looking at the discrimination aspect for, like they said, non-Hispanic people. Who does that who does that cover? Like, how many different races does that cover? And I mean, is there a Black American aspect? We'll have to see. You know what I'm saying? Because it definitely has been a lot of people's experiences where they're saying that they can be in those places, right? So a federal court has ordered the related companies to fully comply with the subpoenas issued by the U.S. Equal Opportunities Commission as part of an ongoing investigation into an alleged discriminatory hiring practices. The subpoena stems from the commissioner initiated charges issued on September 2024, alleging that Vallarta supermarkets failed or refused to recruit, hire, or promote individuals based on race, including white, Black, and Asian applicants, and national origin, specifically non-Hispanic individuals, right? So right there, it alleges white, Black, and Asian. Now, I'm not sure what the same could be said for maybe even Asian markets, right? Or, places of, that stature. But I mean, clearly there it states, right? It says for the state and government, right? They said that this was the Vallarta supermarkets failed or refused to recruit, hire, or promote individuals based on race, including white, Black, and Asian applicants, right? So from my perspective, I mean, that's kind of what I mean when I say that when we have to think big picture for Black Americans and what we're trying to create as a culture, having our own grocery stores and places that we can patronize so that we do not have to deal with these type of issues where there is discrimination in the workplace, right? I hear it all the time where Black Americans who, like I said, like I worked in corporate America, so I understand it from a real grassroots level perspective, but it's different on that level, right? But when it comes down to maybe you work in a warehouse out here in LA, maybe you work in a supermarket like this one, right? And you're trying to become a supervisor and the supervisor position comes away, right? But then maybe, you know, you might have a situation where the entire staff is of a different persuasion and they just don't want you to be in that position. And that happens a lot, right? And so whoever these people are who, you know, filed this subpoena to, you know, get the EEOC involved is definitely interesting because, like I said, this is, what did they say? This is a part of the Department of Justice and the Civil Rights Division of Litigation. So this is like a real federal probe, right, into what, you know, the practices were when people were trying to be recruited or they failed to be recruited, hired, or promoted, right? And so if this is getting to that level, right, and they are using this probe, and this is like from September 2024, right, where they're alleging that there was including Black, white, and Asian applicants. So like I said, sometimes in these workplaces, a lot of Black Americans will be looking at those positions and they're qualified for them. And just because you're not of that certain, you know, Latino background or Hispanic background, you will not get that supervisor position, right? And so I think a lot of people have seen that, and a lot of discrimination cases have come across that, you know, I see them all the time, you know what I'm saying? And me coming from a corporate background, you know, it's a little bit different because the level that I was at, I'm dealing with not only just those who, you know, you want to have on your side as far as like, yo, we're both, you know, people who are coming from, you know, something, but it's crazy out here. Hey, salute, East Side. Thank you for pulling up, brother. Yeah, and it is crazy out here, man, because it's very interesting to say, to the least, that like when you look at this, because I saw it wasn't just, you know, the EEOC who's doing these type of probes, but they're getting ready to attack a lot of different, you know, a lot of different factions of workplaces, because now they're trying to say that white males are being discriminated against in the workplace, right? And so let me see if I can find that video where it says that. Hold up, because yeah, man, it's crazy, like how these things kind of director, let's see here, director and white male discrimination. Let's see if it comes up, y'all, because you know what I'm saying, it's just crazy though, because there's a big faction of this where it's not just going to be people who are coming out here. Yep, I found it. Who are just going to be, you know, oh, they think it's just Black Americans. Like, no, a lot of people who definitely want to work is, I think, those white males, you know, the Karens of the world and whatever else you want to say, they're also making a big stink about what's going on in the workplace and them being discriminated against. And a lot of people are feeling like, you know, they don't even have a shot. And I mean, now they're going to be a probe on that, which is, you know, I find to be hilarious. So here's this video, right? I want you guys to see this because it's very, very interesting to me. And I think you guys should see it too. So this is the director of the EEOC. And like I said, there's right now a push for not only just Black Americans, but white American males who are feeling some type of way about these, you know, jobs, right? So let's hear it.
Are you a white male who's experienced discrimination at work based on your race or sex? You may have a claim to recover money under federal civil rights laws. Contact the EEOC as soon as possible. Time limits are typically strict for filing a claim. The EEOC is the federal agency charged with enforcing federal anti-discrimination law against businesses and other private sector employers.
All right. So like I said, it ain't just Black Americans who they're trying to, like, you know, put at the forefront of this. OK, a lot of white males have a problem with them not being able to get jobs at these certain grocery stores and at these certain places, because it ain't just Black Americans who are getting pushed out of these warehouses and other places. OK, a lot of the truck drivers are upset. Right. That's why if we just saw 16,000 CDL licenses just got revoked overnight. right? That wasn't just to help our economy and get the illegals out from driving on them streets. That's also for all the white males who are just going to be a new influx for the CDL licenses so that they can get back to them six-figure jobs driving across the country. All right. It's all part of the system, right? But it is a direct connection with this because a lot of them want them jobs. A lot of them are going to be working those jobs. A lot of those CDLs that just have gotten revoked, that's going to put the battery in a lot of other people back. A lot of these, different people, they're going to get out there and get it. But at the same time, there's also people who are ringing the bell like this lady here, you feel me, who's the director of the EEOC, telling white males if you've been discriminated against, you may be entitled to some money for damages. Listen to this.
The EEOC is committed to identifying, attacking, and eliminating all forms of race and sex discrimination, including against white male applicants and employees. Check out EEOC.gov to learn more and read our one-page explainer about DEI-related discrimination. Are you a white male who's experienced discrimination at work?
Listen to that. Are you a white male who's experienced discrimination at work? Okay. So listen, this ain't just about them. All right. It's just they'll use, you feel me? Definitely a discrimination case like this one, right? Where you have a huge grocery store like Vallarta Supermarkets that has over 80 supermarkets across Southern California and Central California. You'll use them in a discriminatory case that they had where it was, like they said, discrimination against people who are non-Hispanic. And then they're saying including white, black, and Asian applicants, right? So, of course, that's a good case to attach herself to, so where she can actually, press the line on saying that she's trying to clean up, you feel me, the discrimination that's going on. Because like she said, she's thinking about white males. All right. If you are a white male who's been discriminated against, like the nerve, right? But as well, there's an extra layer here, right? Because at the same time that all this is happening, right, we're starting to see that. So I thought it was important to bring that to the forefront because it was very interesting to see, kind of what the commentary was about this, you feel me, and just how people feel, right? And I think it's important, like, how, we can look at certain cases and certain, things that they're trying to implement, and then we take with what as well the imagery and the propaganda that comes behind it. That's why I thought it was important to bring up that video, because this is the lady who represents this organization, who's also representing the organization that's going after Vallarta Foods for the discrimination case that they already are dealing with from September of 2024. All right. So this was before even Trump was even elected. All right. They found this, it came up to her, and she's like, oh yeah, that's the one. And so now they smashing the gas on them, right? And I think, like I said, this will also be a probe into what? How many people work there who are under actual real, I'm a real citizen here. Because then they can look at everybody who works there. They're going to look at the staff. They're going to look at how they're paying them. Are they here legally? Are they here illegally? And guess what comes after that? They're going to be ICE raids all up through those supermarkets. It's all connected. And I'm telling you, they are not smart enough to see it from a mile away, because that's where it starts, right? Please, any white males who are saying that they're discriminated against, what industries do white males dominate? Okay, we already just talked about the trucking industry, but also construction, the trades. All right, we're about to see a lot of that coming from a lot of contractors and a lot of tradesmen who are going to be taking these up with the EEOC after they see this video, because they also are a white male who's feeling discriminated against on the workplace. And then boom, you know what I'm saying? Even more chaos, which, it is what it is. But I also came across this. I don't know if y'all seen this, but listen to this.
home for the holidays season. So, not only are we returning those kiddos back to their families that Biden lost, we also are saying that if you voluntarily want to go home now to your country, if you're in this United States of America illegally, we will give you $3,000 through the holidays to send you home. We'll buy you a ticket, give you $3,000 to go home, and that includes people that have not been detained, maybe have interacted with us, are detained and don't have criminal charges against.
3,000 to go home for the holidays. All right, that's the energy that's in the air right now, and it's crazy, right? Because I think it's unfortunate because there's a prophecy part of this, right? That a lot of us went through as Black Americans, trying to keep everybody on code, helping them understand like what the enemy does and how they move, right? And so it's unfortunate because a lot of people didn't take heed. They didn't take the advice and they thought it was sweet. And so now we're starting to see a lot of people getting, very, very nasty wake up calls. You feel me? It's getting nasty out here where they are literally putting out PSAs for $3,000 for you to go home. Look at this. I'm gonna play this back so y'all can see just how petty.
Well, it's home for the holidays season. So,
Home
not
for
only
the
are we returning those
holiday
kiddos back to
season.
their families that Biden lost, we also are saying that if you voluntarily want to go home now to your country, if you're in this United States of America illegally, we will give you $3,000 through the holidays to send you home.
Through the holidays to send you home. All right. And I mean, it's unfortunate because, like I said, it was a prophecy from Black Americans. We told them, like, look, y'all, we don't think this is what you think is going to be. Like, you guys might want to lock in with, being precise about what you do and how you choose to move, because these people don't care about y'all. And as soon as they get the opportunity, they're going to come for everything. And that's what they're doing. Like I said, the EEOC is being very strategic in what they want to attach themselves to, right? And as well, they know how to pick certain stories, right? And then, of course, self-deporting yourself before the holidays is just insane. Like, and that's what it is. And Black Americans, we try so hard to help people and help them understand, like, look, guys, like, you might want to do this because it's not looking good, man. They're definitely going to do something. And every single turn, people think it's a game and think we're just, talking crazy. But look at this.
Buy you a ticket, give you $3,000 to go home, and that includes people that have not been detained, maybe have interacted with us, are detained and don't have criminal charges against them. Yeah, raise your hand. We'll help you get home. We'll facilitate it, and you might get the chance to come back to this country the right way someday. If you wait until we interdict you and detain you and arrest you and have to deport you ourselves, you'll never get the chance to come back. So,
I mean, I don't know what to say. It's just, this is where we're at right now in 2025, where it is literally no holds barred, right? We're in a whole society where people are literally just like going off. They're doing whatever they want. They're saying whatever they want. And there's not much that people can say back, right? So let me bring this story up just so you guys can catch up, whoever came through. Make sure you guys like and subscribe, man. You know what I'm saying? We having a chill day. I hope you guys are doing well out there. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, let's bring this up real quick so you guys can... All right, here we go.
Hey everyone, a federal court has just ordered Vallarta Supermarkets, a popular chain with about 80 stores across Central and Southern California, to fully comply with requests from the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. The EEOC is investigating claims that the company has patterns of not hiring or promoting non-Hispanic workers because of their race or national origin. Now, this probe started with charges brought by EEOC commissioner themselves back in 2024. When Vallarta did not provide all the information voluntarily, the agency went to court in July, and now the judge has ruled in their favor. The company must provide and turn over applicants' data, employee records, and even some hiring questions and any complaints about race or origin. The EEOC chair, Andrea Lucas, said the documents will help determine if laws were broken. So remember, this is still an investigation. No final decision on wrongdoing has been made. But I do want to know, what do y'all think about this? Share your thoughts in the comments. And until next time, be safe. I'm out.
All right. So I think it's important, you know what I'm saying, to look at, like I said, the full story. And that's kind of where it is right now. And, you know, I like to go in the comment sections and look at certain people and what they're saying. So I thought it would be fun to kind of look at some of these comments on this post, right? So you got the post right there, you know what I'm saying? Let's see if we could bring it up here. Boom. And then bam. All right, so there you go. You got the Vallarta Markets. It's on Facebook, you know what I mean? So look, one of the top comments, it says, let me zoom in. Let me see if I can zoom in on that. Bop, 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 bop. All right, there we go. Little zoom action. It says, if I go to a Mexican store, I expect Mexicans. So who's complaining, right? And, you know, you got a point there. I agree. But that's why my point is 100% that Black Americans need to start having our own grocery stores and start patronizing our own grocery stores. Now, I've seen there's definitely a few grocery stores that I've seen that are Black owned. There are some that, you know, have been franchised out. Like, for instance, there's one here in Long Beach that's owned by a sister, but it is through the chain grocery outlet, but she's the owner of that specific, you know what I'm saying, franchise. And I go there all the time. You know what I'm saying? She's a great sister, and you know what I mean? I support her business. But that's why I'm saying, like, there needs to be more businesses like that, because most of the people working there are Black people. I ain't gonna hold you. You know what I'm saying? Floor manager, he Black. You got a few cashiers and people who stocking in there, they Black. So it's definitely like that. And I, you know, I can't be mad at the brother for saying that. And that's why it's so important, at least from my perspective, that Black Americans start to establish more franchises or having, you know, grocery stores, even if you got to start small. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's definitely going to be, you know, an uphill battle, right? But I think it's important to invest in those type of spaces so that we can create those jobs for Black Americans, where you don't have, you know what I'm saying, these type of probes through, you know what I mean, the EEOC, where, you know, you're trying to work or trying to get promoted at a predominantly Hispanic store, right? That's, you know, it's crazy. But then I saw this comment where Kenny Vith, he said, it's an American store. And I mean, this is true as well. You are in America, right? And so that plays a part too, where it's like, it is an American store. You're in America, you're doing business here, you know, and a lot of people who patronize, you know, the Mexican stores are still, you know, Americans. So you got that part too, I could say for sure. And so, you know, there's a guy here, he says they have merit-based hiring practices, not DEI. The customer speaks Spanish, so the most competitive applicant will list Spanish on their resume and probably be spoken to in Spanish during an interview. Aren't we for merit-based hiring practices? And I mean, you know, it is what it is. But I think, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, if it's an American business, I don't think there should be a requirement for you to speak Spanish. Sure, it may help you on your job because, you know, most of the patrons who go to this store are going to be Hispanic or Latino, but it shouldn't be a requirement. You feel me? Like, you shouldn't be required to speak Spanish, right? If you're choosing to work there, right? But like I said, I'm more in the sense of, you know, I think Black people need to have our own grocery stores, but that's my opinion, right? So you got my Vallarta has all races, but there is a store. It's made to embrace one culture. If I see Trevor making tamales, I'll crash out. I mean, it is what it is, right? But that's just, you know, I think it's the crux of the issue here, right? You know what I'm saying? So it kind of goes like that. You know what I mean? Like, and I think this guy, he says they probably prefer bilingual workers to meet the needs of all their customers. I mean, of course, and, you know, it keeps going on kind of in that scenario, right? But, you know, from my perspective, I'd be feeling like this is just kind of, you know, the perfect metaphor for me to always press my point about, you know, Black businesses as far as like supporting other Black businesses, supporting places that we have in our neighborhoods that we can go to as Black Americans, so we can actually have our own spaces where we can hire and help out our own. You know what I'm saying? It's unfortunate that, I'm sure, whoever did want to work here, maybe they had aspirations to, become a manager or, work their way up. I'm not sure what the entire scenario is because, like I mentioned, on the subpoena and the verbiage, it says non-Hispanic. So it wasn't just Black Americans who were being discriminated against. They specifically listed white, Black, and Asian. So I'm not sure exactly what those, all together may have been, but like I mentioned with the director of the EEOC, they specifically have a narrative to make sure that white males and white Americans are being represented in these discrimination cases so that they can push their own agendas. Now, what agenda that is, I do not know. But like I said, they're trying to find ways to get in there. You feel me? And I don't know what the hiring process was like, because of course that's what they're talking about as well. The hiring process, them not having opportunities. And then as well, they're also talking about people not being promoted. So I don't know what that, entails and who exactly that describes, but they described it as non-Hispanic. So that's all we can kind of go off of. But like I said, I can definitely understand the standpoint of people who have dealt with discrimination in any workplace, because if you've worked anywhere in life, there's definitely a level of discrimination, especially if you reach a certain level. You're Black American, you got a lot to offer. There's going to be people and also, collective of people who are going to try to sabotage what you got going on. So you always got to be careful and watch your own back. You know what I mean? Which is, it is what it is. But I think like when I looked at this one, it was a great, metaphor and also a good story for me to kind of push that narrative where it's like, we need to have more Black American grocery stores and places that we can patronize and spend our money, because of course these situations wouldn't happen and you wouldn't have to worry about working at a place where you have to, know Spanish and speak Spanish if we had our own places to come, what I'm saying, and patronize and be able to, feed the community, right? And so we got to be more proactive in that sense, where we got to find better opportunities to build, right? And do things the right way where we can actually have, these opportunities, because we already know how that shit goes. But yeah, man, this was just a quick stream, because, it's our family week. So, we're moving around, we're doing a lot of things, got places to be. But thank you to everyone who's been liking and subscribing, man. We're growing. The channel's been growing in a very, very great way. I appreciate everybody who pulls up and shows love, man. You guys have been showing a lot of love. The comments, you feel me? It keeps me going. We had a great year, a lot of productivity. We've grown a lot over the last 2 months specifically, man. A lot of new subscribers. A lot of people are really giving me a lot of great feedback on the video. So salute to y'all. I'm glad you guys dig the format. You know what I mean? I changed a few things up, but it's all been coming together in the long run. And I'm fucking with that. You know what I'm saying? Because now it's giving me this space to be able to, do what I want to do. And you guys have been super receptive to that. You know what I mean? I'm doing some live streams. I'm dropping some videos. I got some, surf content, food. I'm doing it all. But you guys always, are super supportive of that. So much love for that. And, mad appreciation, everybody. So thank you so much. Make sure you guys stay safe out there, and salute to everybody who comes through, man. My name's Brandon B. This is Elite Media, and I'm out. Peace. Am I still on stream? I don't know, man. I don't know if it's not letting me off, guys. Let's go.